Daniel, this is the ropes that bind us. My heart pounded along the base. Bodies writhed in darkness as they breathed in each other's sweat. Their conjoined scent drifted to the back of the room where I waited patiently on my knees. I gazed past luxurious legs, over a tight black corset, into two icy blue eyes, circled with black mascara and speckled with desire. Jezebel's caramel fingers rotated the tiny wooden spear before plunging the crimson-stained olive into her drink. Her lipstick spiraled out across the alcohol surface as it was raised to dangle between us. I opened my mouth, not daring to take a bite. Jezebel moaned softly as she teased the olive closer and closer to my quivering lips. Just before contact, the olive was snatched away, disappearing behind her vicious smile. I kept my mouth open. A friend of ours walked past, patted me on the head, and continued on his way. Jezebel straightened her leg, the leather boot calling to me in creaks, and the half-masticated olive was spat down onto it. My leash was jerked, and gratefully I crawled closer to accept my gift. I tasted the olive and inhaled the fragrance of leather infused with Jezebel. I felt a tightness in my pants and... Brian? I jumped up, hitting my head on the table and almost choking as I span around to see Steve, way overdressed in an Armani suit. Shit. I was 21 when I told the first and only person outside the fetish scene about my persuasions. I didn't understand why masochism and political science needed to be kept apart. So with a few beers inside me, I told my then best friend, Bobby Sakes, about my dominant girlfriend. It did not go well. He had shifted uncomfortably, his face refusing to settle into one expression. So, does she use a strap-on? What? No, of course not. I'm still, the man. Bobby stood up, his beer half finished. It's just when you said that she was in charge, I assumed that. Said, Bobby, you know that in charge and penis aren't synonyms, right? His nose crinkled and he nodded as this new idea scrambled around, looking for a place to reside in his mind. When he admitted that he simply didn't know man, I knew that it had failed to take roots. Bobby went to the toilet and he never came back. And just like that, I was ostracized. Bobby and the guys on my course laughed every time they saw me. I stopped being invited to social events, and my girlfriend became the victim of some very cruel jokes. And I learned that day why I needed to keep my private life private. Now, 10 years later, and Steve, the chauvinist, with a cubicle covered in pinup girls and his pay-as-you-go phone, because it isn't just women trying to screw you with commitment, man. Steve is threatening to break that carefully constructed wall. I shouted over the noise, Steve, what are you doing here? I hoped the burning feeling under my skin would do something useful, like burn the collar from around my throat, or cover my half-naked body in something useful, like a coffin. Steve's eyes locked into mine. Hey, buddy. A friend said this was a good place to meet. He looked at Jezebel for the first time, his eyes wide and face red. Yeah. Of course, the crowd stared at our exchange. I feared they were thinking that I had invited a stranger into our tight-knit world. The fear that my career may be ruined by my sexual predilections was soon drowned out by the fear of losing my friends over my career. Jezebel gracefully stepped up. We had been together for 5 years, so she knew when I was standing in the way of a meteor and faltering. Suddenly, she dropped my leash and held out her delicate hand. I'm Jezebel, charmed. Her voice was calming, It reminded me to breathe. And maybe remember that however this all played out, I would still have her. Steve's eyes drifted over her perfect body, and I prayed that it would knock him out so we could cart him off for some medical experiments. I had no such luck. Steve looked from her outfit to mine. Look, buddy, he could hardly repress his laughter. I gotta go. And off he went. Fuck. Okay, on Monday morning, Jezebel had to literally kick me out of the house. I dragged my feet all the way to the office and collapsed into my swivel chair. Baz, my boss, he wouldn't keep me on, or if he did, the shame would push me out. I could call Steve a liar, or I could kill him and hide the body. The liar thing probably wouldn't work, and Jezebel had refused to help me commit a felony. Knock, knock. It was time. Unusually, Steve was alone. His aftershave entered the room before he did, causing my eyes to water. Hey, buddy. Hi, Steve. How are you? Yeah, he grinned, closed the door, and sat in the seat opposite. I wanted to apologize for my reaction on Friday. I couldn't see where this torment was going. What do you talk? Come on, mate. Look, let's not do that. He looked down and started picking imaginary lint from his sleeve. I knit. Awkwardness crawled down my throat, and I could only let out a, It isn't as bad as, I'm not saying that your thing is bad. I got into it as a kid, it helped me calm down. His fictitious grooming ended, and his face lit up in a way I had only seen when Arsenal had made the semifinals. I don't just do scarves, I do toys for my sister's kids, and I do hats in the winter. Thinking about this whole conversation, I knitted a whole... He shook his head with a smile and returned to picking his sleeve. You know what? That doesn't matter. He gazed around and held out his hands, taking in the office and the world beyond. This place, it's hard. And sometimes we exist as one thing in one place and another in another. Look, what I'm trying to say is it doesn't matter how or even who you fuck. You're a damn good salesman. He pulled a black knitted shawl from his bag. Your girl could catch her death if she goes outside, dressed like, Anyways, I made this for her. I dumbly accepted the offering. Oh, and I told everyone that club was shit, full of old people with saggy bits. You should be safe there again. Hey, we're having a beer after work tonight. You coming? Now, I had guessed that this was part one of an ongoing torment, a long-term plan of mockery designed to lull me into a false sense of security. But nothing happened that week, or the following month. My colleagues never brought it up, and I was never ambushed at the club. The only change came at Christmas, when I found a box on my desk. It contained a knitted cardigan that fit me perfectly, and a striped hat for Jezebel.